RGB is everywhere. Here's another big boy. Hi, let's get to work, shall we? On the box we have some marketing buzzwords, but that's not why we're here, so let's take a look inside. Alright, we have papers, the mouse, and a lack of dignity because we just bought another soulless fruit from a multi-billion-dollar company. Let's take a look at this thing. Love it or hate it, this design makes no apologies. It's a chunky boy, and because of that, this rat packs some serious juice. We're talking G502 scroll ripoff, but even better. We're gonna get back to this later though. Oh, and I almost forgot, here's another big boy for comparison. The cable is pretty flexible, it's 1.8 meters, and we've got rubberized sides that feel really nice. RGB is everywhere, so you know what you're buying. All I can say is that, at least to me, it looks really good. You can set different colors, modes, etc., which we'll look into later on. Let's see some specs. The mouse features Razer Focus Plus 26K DPI optical sensor, which I find to be pretty accurate. Maximum tracking speed is 650 IPS or around 60 km per hour, so a charging rhinoceros could drag this mouse behind it and in theory it would still work well. Unfortunately, I won't be able to test that due to no access to any rhinos at the moment. Max acceleration is 50 Gs. We've also got 2nd gen Razer optical mouse switches, which should withstand 70 million clicks, so double clicking issues should be a thing of the past. And most importantly, 100% PTFE mouse fit. Unfortunately, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. The main buttons do have some additional travel before the actual click. At this price, I would expect it to be much better considering it's not a cheap $10 mouse. We also have the side buttons, which feel a bit mushy, especially the sniper button. And don't get me wrong, they're not terrible, but could be more snappy. By the way, the sniper button is a really cool feature, especially for high sensitivity players with jittery hands. Some people say it's hard to reach. It's not a problem in my case, but keep that in mind if you have small hands. So, if you were wondering, Logitech G502 Hero is built slightly better, especially when it comes to the buttons, but still, it's not the end of the world. On the bottom, there's a profile button. You can play around with it in the Razer Synapse software. And on the top, there's the main course, the scroll wheel. You might be familiar with a similar concept used in Logitech G502, but there's a big difference. Logitech scroll wheel is fully mechanical, while the Basilisk is software controlled. This means that you have to click a physical button to toggle the scroll mode in the Logitech's mouse, and Razer's wheel is programmable, so you can switch the modes just by scrolling faster. It's not a perfect solution though, sometimes, which happens surprisingly often in my case, the scroll will switch modes even when I'm not moving the wheel that fast. I contacted Razer about this issue, but unfortunately they do not have any plans for their users to be able to adjust the sensitivity in the Razer Synapse app. But if the auto switching mode bothers you, you can always disable it and just use the toggle button. However, if you can get used to it, it's possible to change this button to do anything you'd like using match or showing a map. Oh, and I almost forgot, you can also scroll sideways. Let's see what you all think about the previous video. Oh, here's a good one. Your hair looks great, mate. What products do you use? Thanks. You gotta ask my barber though. Too bad tariffs don't fix a bad come over to pay. Yeah, let's observe a moment of silence and hear what this puppy sounds like. Now that we've covered hardware, let's move on to the software. If you're not deep into the Razer ecosystem, Razer Synapse 4 still gives you a lot of customization options. Here, you can change the actions assigned to the buttons. Basilisk has built-in memory. One thing to note is that it saves everything but your RGB settings. So if you plug your mouse into another PC, you will have the same DPI and scroll settings as said before, but to switch your profiles or see your RGB, you need to install the app and log into your account. By the way, if you want to set macros, you have to go to the Modules tab and download the macro module. Alright, let's get back to the scroll settings. Scroll acceleration is pretty strange and certainly not for everyone. It makes your scrolling faster as you go. Basically, imagine mouse acceleration but with the scroll wheel and much worse. It's the reason people get bullied at school. Scrolling mode, or as some would call it the interstellar mode, makes your wheel think it's like 2017 and fidget spinners are still cool. I mean, they still are, but that's not the point. The point is that you can flip through PDFs like there's no tomorrow, or do some more questionable stuff. Finally, the smart reel, which is the cherry on top. When enabled, it automatically switches the mode to free spin when you scroll faster. Again, it doesn't always work perfectly because you can't change the exact point where the mode is switched, but if you can get used to it, it's great. Here are the performance settings. They're basic, but what else would you really need? It's possible to have a few sensitivity stages to cycle through or just set one value and assign the button to something else. If you're a masochist, you can set your DPI to 26,000 and yeah, good luck switching that back to something normal. As for the polling rate, if you're on a cable, you should set it to the highest value. Lower values can improve battery life when using a wireless mouse, but the gaming experience will be worse since the mouse is not updating its position as often. In the shiny stuff panel, there are quite a few options to choose from. You can adjust brightness and decide when to switch off RGB. On the right side, there are two options, quick and advanced effects. The former has a few basic effects, like audiometer, where the lighting is affected by the sounds played on your PC, breathing, fire, reactive, which responds to your clicks, spectrum cycling, starlight, static, and wave. Advanced settings use Chroma Studio. To be honest, it's probably the most comprehensive feature of Razer Synapse. You can customize whatever you like. For example, you can change the color of individual sections. Let's create a new effect. You can add static effect and remove the default spectrum cycling. Now let's pick our sections and change their colors to something fancy. You can choose the existing colors, enter the exact hex or RGB value, or go wild with the color picker. After that, just save it and you're all set. There are plenty of tutorials you can find, so I won't be doing a full rundown. In the calibration tab, you can set the tracking distance, and if you want, you can break it down into the landing and lift-off distances. However, it's not possible to change the exact individual values. The manual calibration is another way to keep your balls deep in the Razer's walled garden, so yeah, we won't go that route. Alright, let's wrap it up. The build quality could be a bit better. The left and right mouse buttons feel a bit loose, with the side buttons being a bit mushier than desirable. If you do not like heavy cheese munchers, you may want to search for something else or just hit the gym. The actual plastics and rubber are of good quality, with the scroll wheel being less shaky than the one on the Logitech G502 Hero. Overall, the scroll wheel is just better. As for performance in gaming and general use, it's more than enough. Unless you're a sweaty pro, you likely won't notice much of a difference between this and more expensive mice. Additionally, Razer Synapse is a great app. So, in the end, it's a bit flawed, but still decent. A solid Huey Campbell out of 10. And what do you think? Is Basilisk version 3 still relevant in 2025? Leave a comment down below to boost engagement and praise the algorithm. See ya!